Guys, welcome back to this channel, and today I'm reviewing Kingsman the Secret Service. I'm gonna rank the Kingsman movies on a different day, but I didn't really feel like reviewing the other two because I don't really have much of a history of those two. First one's interesting because this is my first rated R movie I ever watched, and that's sort of why I've always really enjoyed it. And I mean, then I saw like this Die Hard remake at a school called like Toy Soldiers or something, and then I saw The Terminator, and this is the first rated R movie, and I still feel like I'm not allowed to watch this one, but I've seen it a few times. Still, I actually am allowed to watch it, but like, yeah. So overall, not much to say, but I think we can get into this. Yeah, just go check out my DC playlist. I have two new Batman reviews that just came out. My Dark Knight Rises review is going to probably come out tomorrow, and my Batman review is going to come out Monday. So let's get started. Starting things out with what this movie's about. This movie's about this organization that sort of runs underground, doing these missions for the safety of the world, and then Samuel Jackson comes in and tries and inflicts chaos, so they have to recruit new people. I never quite figured out what exactly the Kingsman organizations stands by. I've never quite understood it. Even the prequel didn't help. Anyway, there you go. Next up, you have the good. And overall, what I've always loved about this movie is that it's very stylistic. Matthew Vaughn's an interesting director because he's done this. He's done X-Men First Class. He did the other two Kingsman movies, obviously. And as much as I'm not a fan of the other two, specifically the second one, they're still very stylized, and the action is still pretty good. For the most part. This has the best action sequences, in my opinion, where you have that church action sequence, which is just fantastic. I don't know if you've seen this movie. I don't know how you cannot love it. There's also the final battle, which is not as stylized as some of the other ones, but still quite good. There's the two bar fights, which are both great. And overall, this movie's a plethora of great action sequences. And this is one of those things where I feel like it actually would have worked better as a TV show, because you could see these characters going on different missions, and each episode is a mission building up to something. And I think the first Kingsman could have been like a 2-part pilot episode. That's sort of what it feels like. And it's a bit odd as a movie franchise. So, I think it would have been more sense as a TV show, and then the prequel as a movie. There you go. And overall, I think another thing I love about this movie, the characters are all great. Eggsy, you got Colin Firth Terry, you got Merlin. I thought he is a good character. All of them are great. And Samuel Jackson, one of his most over-the-top performances. I mean, I kind of forget that he's in this movie because this is so much more different than he's done in other movies. Like, he's never really like the funny guy. He's never like the smiley face, over-the-top personality, because he's usually just the persona. And here, he does something much more different than he's done in the past. And, like, even comparing it to movies he's done around this time, like, even in the Marvel movies, he has some funny lines, but he's a pretty serious character. This guy, he's gleeful, he's joyous, and having a great time, clearly. And I think this Valentine character is just great. His henchperson with prosthetic legs. She's fine. I don't really have an opinion on her. And then another thing about this movie, I think overall, the middle things get a little slow, but it picks up right again at the end. And I think it starts off quite energetically with that opening little action sequence. And I do find the opening a little bit weird, but still. I think the overall, like, little gadgets and stuff like the umbrella, I think that's kind of unique in my opinion. And overall, I think all of the action sequences are memorable. There's not one that I forget about. And that's sort of the beauty of this movie. It's not like I'm talking so positively, but it's not like one of my favorite movies of all time. I think it's great. I don't think it's like top 10 of all time. Nowhere even near that. It's like barely even a 9 out of 10. Anyway, I'm ranting. I really enjoy this movie. It's entertaining all throughout, even in the middle where it's a little slower. It's still really entertaining. And I think by the time you get to the end, it does feel like you've been on a 3-hour long journey rather than just like a 2-hour long one. It doesn't matter because this movie's entertaining, so it's not a problem, and I really like it. Now you have the mixed stuff, and overall, I think the middle, as I've said a couple times, it gets a bit slow where you have all the training sequences. Granted, the training sequences are all pretty good, but like it just slows a bit down where you have the first half which moves at a brisk pace, and then the end moves really quickly. But in the middle, things slow down, and you spend probably like 20 to 30 minutes on this whole training sequence, which could have been only like 10 minutes. But still pretty good too. So that's why I don't really, it's not really bad, but it's not really good either. It just brings the movie down just slightly. And I think that it begins in a bit of an odd spot because I always forget how this movie begins. And I could see why. But for a movie like this, I think even the opening sequence in the second one is a bit more memorable than this one. I don't know. And overall, Samuel L. Jackson's great, as I've said. But I do think his plan is he's a bit too over at the top. I think there's a couple things that don't quite sit right with this entire plan. It's a little odd with the way things play out, where he has this satellite link and then the handprint. Like, if he can't, when he keep his handprint on the whole time, like that's a long time. Your hand get tired by that. But very minor nitpicks for a pretty great movie. There's nothing really I dislike about this movie, because the action sequences are great, the characters are pretty good, the villain's good. It has all the things you want, and I think an interesting thing to note is that I think overall this feels like a pretty much I think, very ultra-violent, hard R version of a Bond movie, much more like a hyped up Bond movie where stakes are higher, more interesting things are happening. It's kind of like that. That's kind of what it feels like. There's even a reference to the Bond movies. And yeah, so for this movie's final score, I'm going to give it like a 9.2 out of 10. I quite enjoyed this one, to be honest. Like, I think it's a great movie. It plays really nicely on rewatches, and it just works. And if you haven't seen this one and you like hard horror, ultra-violent movies, I recommend, if you want to, you go check this one out. If you don't like it, I could understand that, as well as the new one especially. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and comment down below. And I'll see you guys next time. Adios.